to the Weird Kid Show. It's awesome having you here today. So I've got an interview today for you, and I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed talking to this man. Super down to earth, really nice guy, and he's been around for a while, for 3 years. He's put a twist on the horror host scene. Rather than host a horror film, he's doing movie reviews. He goes to the dollar store and he'll buy those questionable movies and watch them to find the hidden gems or to tell you not to watch it. Okay, so he's providing a service. So without any further ado, let me introduce to you a friend of the show, Dr. Dread Movie Reviews. Take it away, Doc. Here we are, guys, with Dr. Dread's Movie Reviews. And thank you so much, Doc, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Yep. So you want to give everyone your real name?
Sure. My name's John Murray, and I'm located in southeastern Pennsylvania. And for the past almost 3 years, I've been doing video movie reviews. It started out just on YouTube, but then it was picked up by Chop Block TV. Just recently, I've been picked up by the Monster Channel.
That's awesome. Awesome. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I'll tell you, there is a lot of horror hosts and whatnot on throughout the country, and I've had the privilege and honor of interviewing some of them. But what's really caught my attention about you, Doc? First of all, I'm going to touch on a bunch of it. I want to go way back to when you were a kid. What corrupted you? Like, it's probably the same story as mine. But I just want to say one of the things that really drew me to you was that you have the painstaking task of watching the movies that we just typically pass by. You know what I'm saying? I go into the dollar store and they have all these dollar store movies, and you look at the titles, and some of the covers might look good, and the synopsis, the story might sound good and everything, but you get home, you put it in, and it's like the production value is like a VHS camcorder maybe or something like that. It's a lot of bad movies out there.
Oh,
but you will actually sit down and watch them for us, so we don't have to.
That's one of my tags is I watch bad movies so you don't have to. I do pick up a lot of Dollar Tree movies and yard sale finds and flea markets, and they're very obscure titles that not mainstream stuff. And every now and then there's a gem in there, and they make it all. They make it fun. They make it worthwhile.
But you also touch base on current like Hollywood productions. Just recently, you did The Conjuring 3.
Yes.
Which is a movie I got to enjoy with the 14-year-old, and that was enjoyable. I'm getting to where I'm becoming a big fan of the Conjuring films. But let's go back. You're just out of Pittsburgh, aren't you?
Well, actually, I'm a lot closer to Philadelphia. I'm
okay, Philly.
A little bit west of Philadelphia.
Big horror scene out there. I mean, George Romero, Tom Savini.
Yeah. They're all Pittsburgh guys. That's a little bit, that's like 200 miles west of me.
Is there a little rivalry between Philly and the Pittsburgh guys, or?
No, you know what? I think the horror family, most of us, there is no rivalry. I mean, there's a couple of people out there, even amongst the host, that they don't get along for whatever reason. But I think most of the people I've talked to and encountered doing this, our love of the genre, something, that we focus on.
Yeah. So growing up as a kid in Pennsylvania, there's usually some kind of a burning bush, either it's an old black and white film, or it's famous monsters of Filmland, or there's usually some crossroads to where the corruption begins. So what was it like for you as a kid?
Oh, my corruption was Dr. Shock.
Dr. Shock,
a Philadelphia horror host. He showed 2 movies on Saturday afternoons. Now, when he actually, if we go back a little bit of his history, is that Zachary used to
Mm-hmm.
used to be in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
and he went under the name of Roland back then.
Mm-hmm.
When New York called, and he went to New York, he became Zachary, and Dr. Shock filled that gap. Joseph Zwislak,
Mm-hmm.
a magician in Philadelphia. He was seen by the people at Channel 17, and he came in very Zachary-like makeup, and they used him. And he was on the air until I believe the early 80s. He passed away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It seemed to be the 80s seems to be a magical number where there was a demise across the nation. It seemed I was always envious of you guys because I grew up in New England and we had it was called Creature Double Feature, and it was the same Saturday around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. They showed two movies, and but there was no horror host. It was just Creature Double Feature, and then the host would tell you what the movies were, and then they would jump into it, and periodically the voice without a face would interrupt, and that was it. But it wasn't until later when they canceled that show, they brought on a guy. It was our first host, Captain USA. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah,
you ever Captain USA. So they brought that on for a while, and I thought he was a character. But then I ended up moving, and then there was no, there wasn't even. We had like two channels where I ended up living out in the country. So a lot of us had that problems too. We didn't have cable when we were kids, so you had
exactly.
to rely on those rabbit. Don't fail me now, rabbit ears and tinfoil, you know. But
Yeah.
so what did you have a favorite genre as a kid and stuff? Like what did you really gravitate towards?
Mine was the black and white Universal Classics,
Mhm, mhm,
and they ended up showing them a lot on in the shock package when it was released to the or the television stations.
mhm, mhm.
Uh, Dracula was always my Bela Lugosi's Dracula. 1931 was always sort of my favorite,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Frankenstein being the follow up.
yeah. Good stuff.
As older, I'm more of a Wolfman kind of guy, but it was always the black and white. I love the classic black and whites.
Uh-huh. And did you get to go to like the movie theater? I know in some areas like I don't know if it was like in your area, but they had a lot of these like these grindhouse theaters and stuff where you could go and pay like $2 and watch like a triple feature or something like with these bad horror movies, these bad B movies and stuff. Did you get that culture?
Unfortunately, we were far enough away from the city that
Mm-hmm.
there was no real close movie theater. So
Mm-hmm.
it was every Friday when my parents went shopping, they would come home with the TV guide
Mm-hmm.
and grab it out of the grocery bag before the groceries even hit the table. And I
Mm-hmm.
would start thumbing through every page and looking for horror movies. I would read
Mm-hmm.
the TV guide from cover to cover and, make a mental note of what movies were on when. And, the weekends, the late show or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It was a horror movie. I was there.
those were simpler times, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
And they were great times because I was right there with you. Now it seems, when I was a kid, it sounds like we grew up in the same kind of scenario. They didn't even have cable available where we lived.
Yeah.
Okay, even if we wanted it, we couldn't afford it, but we couldn't get it anyways. It just wasn't available. So you had
Right.
to rely on. I remember public access would do telethons once in a while, and they would show Frankenstein and all that, and I would be glued to it. Um, I was starving for horror. I couldn't get enough of it, and all we had was what was shown on the television,
Right.
let alone some of these big feature films that were playing in movie theaters. So, but now we're overexposed. There's too much now, you know.
There is. Yes.
and I sit there I've got Netflix, I've got HBO, I've got all this stuff, and I think I spend the equivalent time that I could watch a movie trying to find something to watch. So that's why your services are greatly appreciated and stuff, because, like you said, the dollar store, yeah, there's a lot of bad movies, but there's got to be, you're going to find a diamond in the rough in there at some point in time.
Yeah.
So now, so moving on from that, you're growing up, you're watching your diet, you're getting your diet of horror films and stuff like that. I see all kinds of like memorabilia behind you and stuff like that. Did you also delve in? Did you collect like did you have posters on your wall as a kid?
Growing up, we didn't have a whole lot of money, and
Mhm,
I remember getting a 50 cents a week allowance,
mhm,
and that normally went towards soda and a candy bar or something. So back then, I didn't really collect, and that's probably why I've got a room full of stuff now, because
mhm,
yeah, I used to really look at like lobby cards and movie posters on eBay,
mhm,
and a little frugal. I don't like to spend a whole lot of money on stuff, but if that's where my stuff came from, like eBay, or the one horror convention that that I really love going to. The only one is Monster Bash, and that's out in Pittsburgh.
Oh, nice, nice. Now, do you go as Dr. Dread, or you just?
Oh, no, I go as a customer and a fan. uh,
Uh,
uh, and last year, well, actually, they didn't have it last year because of the vid.
yeah.
The year before that, I did put on my fez and my doctor's coat, and I did some filming while I was there as Dr. Dread,
Mhm.
but
Very cool.
I didn't do that this year.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's been a weird couple of years now, and hopefully we're gonna see some our whatever normal is anymore here pretty soon. But well, that's great. So, did you manage to did you like what money you could scrape together? Did you ever like periodically was buying like famous monsters of filmland stuff like that, horror comics and?
Yeah, there was a flea market that we would go to about every other week, and there was a stand there that sold magazines and comic books. And
Mhm,
most of this stuff that he sold was returns, so they didn't have covers.
mhm,
Uh, if a retailer couldn't move the stuff, they tore the cover off and they scrapped the rest of the comic book or the magazine. So
mhm,
this flea market stand had the House of Mystery and the Crypt comic books and famous
mhm.
Filmland, and
Yeah.
a lot of other ones. I never really got too many of the Monster Times. I think I may have had one of those, but
Mhm.
mostly it was famous monsters of Filmland and the comics, the horror
Yeah,
comics.
the Warren Public Creep, uh, yeah, the other Warren publications and stuff,
Yeah.
creepy and eerie and stuff like
Now,
that.
now, occasionally I would sneak in a Vampira if if I thought I could slip it by my mom. You know,
Uh huh. Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
Vampirella, sorry, Vampirella.
yeah. Vampirella. Yep, yep, yep. So, well, it sounds like we had very similar upbringings and stuff. So, Uh, what 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 brought you to the point to where you're like, hey, you know what? I want to do this. I want to start my own channel and just have a go at it.
Funny you should ask that, Dave.
Okay.
I was a youth group leader at our church for like 18 years. And one of our youth went on to do a radio show in college where he would review movies
Mm-hmm.
and post them on YouTube and on his Facebook. And I would watch them. I thought, you know what? That looks like a lot of fun. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's where that's where it started. Uh, I was out of work because I had a vision problem with only one eye, thank God. And but it was enough to get me on disability from my workplace, and I had insurance, so I had free time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd watch a movie. I'd come up to this room,
Mm-hmm.
and on my phone, I would normally they were 5 minutes long,
Yeah.
and it wasn't too much of a crazy, wacky character. It was just, hey, I just saw this, and this is what I think. And then it just sort of rolled from there.
Mm-hmm.
I at one point wanted to do the 2 hour movie and a horror host with, like a segment in the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end.
Yeah.
But when I started looking into like public domain movies and
Mm-hmm.
realizing how many other hosts were out there,
Yeah.
and also, unfortunately, there's no budget in this. We're doing it for
Yeah.
for the heart, the love that we have for the genre. Uh,
Mm.
so they show the public domain, and they're just shown like every host has done Night of the Living Dead and The Brain
Yeah.
That We Die. And so I went from wanting to do that to let's just expand a little bit on what I'm already, and
Yeah.
then I got a puppet sidekick too. That sort of just happened. And
Bucky. Bucky. We're gonna talk about Bucky.
Bucky,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. And well, I think it's a clever idea because there are hardships. You know what I do. I'm a variety show myself, and I decided to just put some of these public domain films that I liked when I was a kid growing up and everything. And I'm fine, even though they're public domain, there are scammers who have put copyright on those public domain films in hopes that you're going to overlook it and then they can collect on your ad revenue.
yes,
So I've gotten every single film I've put up so far. I've only put three. I've got copyright claims on all of them, and I've had
yeah,
to dispute them, and it's just ridiculous. And talking to other horror hosts, YouTube platform for that is an absolute nightmare. So, uh, what you're doing is you're breaking it down. You're taking a film that we may come across in Dollar Tree and pick it up. We know Doc's already looked at it, and this is what he broke it down for us, and he told us what he thought of it, and then he left us to decide whether we want to lose that dollar or invest that dollar, if you will.
yeah.
So you're providing a very profound service to and I just said earlier too, and it's true. We're overexposed now. It's next to impossible. I can't choose. When I was a kid, I was so starving for horror. I couldn't get enough of it,
Yeah.
And I know I had a friend. They were a little bit well-to-do. They got a Betamax. Remember Betamax?
Oh yeah.
And they had a Betamax, so they were rich and they would go to the video store. And I remember he had a catalog, and we would look through it. And I'm like, man, that looks good. Let's, we'll rent that. And we would rent these movies, and that's how, But it was in spoonfuls. Now it's like Blockbuster's dead, and everything's at your fingertips. But people have become so jaded to where you could put $100 million into a movie with all these special effects and this and that, and then they'd be like, yeah, it was okay,
Yeah.
So something's been lost along the way. The
Some, some
magic is, yeah, the
yes.
magic is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm really glad. I think you're around my age too. I think we're very fortunate enough to have lived that and experienced that because it was
Uh,
a very special time.
yeah.
So. So, what's your plans for the future, Doc? What do you have anything you're going to change up, or anything you're going to add, or
Well,
what's your plan?
my set constantly gets changed, a little here, a little there. Uh, we're going to be hosting a Christmas party, so my set's going to end up being all tore down, and
Oh, okay.
so it'll be rearranged after Christmas sometime.
Uh huh.
uh,
And I was honored that you stumbled across one of my tutorials and you built one of the little, I call them the little Frankenstein or the mad scientist contraption.
that was so, I love the Weird Kids show. I really do.
Thank you. I
Because
appreciate it.
oh, it inspires me to do something that, I do a lot of sketching and cartooning, not as
Hmm.
much as I used to, and I like being creative. I do a little bit of painting and stuff, but I see your show and it's like that's simple and it looks so cool.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I did. I went ahead and I built two of the Frankenstein electrode thingies and I put them on either side of a plasma ball.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, looks good. Looks good. And
well,
that's the thing.
I love your jars too. And
Yeah.
I bought some glass eyes, and I've been saving little jars. So I may get into that here shortly too.
Oh, that's cool. And it's fun, and like I said, it's my folks didn't have a lot of money either. Um, in fact, there were times, unfortunately, that their goal was to find the next meal for us. You know what I'm saying? We were poor,
Hmm.
and I think when you come from a poor family like that, what do they say that necessity is the mother of all invention. So you learn to take things that are someone else's junk and repurpose it and turn it into. So I'm all about cheap. I still don't have a lot of money now. I'm not flush now. So dollar store is a great place to go for fodder, for making props and stuff like that. So and uh that mad scientist, I call it uh what did I call it? A condensing coil or something like that. But I think I'm going to redo that because I actually found an even better way of making it. So everyone will have to stay tuned for that. But anyways, I saw what you did and it looked great. Your set looks great. And yeah, I noticed it changes here and there, and there's different lights and different contraptions that seem to appear. And then, of course, Bucky's relatively a new addition.
Yeah, I would say within the past about he's been around for about 18 months, I guess,
Hmm.
almost.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, well, my wife, she
Uh-huh.
really doesn't want her name mentioned in any of the credits. She's like, nah, don't put who Bucky is on there. But
Uh-huh.
she does the puppetry. She does Bucky, and she does another puppet that doesn't show up quite as often. Uh, she does Mort.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Uh,
but uh, it started out where I just asked her to come out and like make sure everything looked good on camera.
mhm.
And then it went from that to me saying, okay, the cameraman's name is Bucky. Can you just say, yeah, everything looks good. And so she went from a voice, and probably within 2 weeks, the puppet came out of storage, which was up in a box in our attic.
Mhm.
And he's on camera now. He's a
Yeah, the
co.
rest is history. Yeah, yeah, telling the knock knock jokes and
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's cool. That's good. It's progressively it's growing. Your channel's growing, and I was quite surprised because I went back to I like to what I like to do is when I run across somebody I've never, a new YouTuber that I'm just discovering is I like to go back to like their first videos to see the contrast of what it was and then where they ended up and stuff, the growth and everything. And I was surprised you've been at this for a while.
Yeah, about 3 years. And
For
uh, after Chop Block TV picked me up, uh, Scott Paulson, the man who runs that, is an editing genius. And I got an editing program and started to emulate some of the things he did and adding my own touches and stuff. So I went from just bare telephone and me, and
Mhm.
I've since bought a camera and added lighting, and I'll throw in some special effects with lightning bolts or some green screen effects.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's,
that's
I
great.
like
Oh,
that. It's fun. It's just
yeah, yeah,
editing part is fun for me.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the weird you got a friend from us, the Weird Kid Show, or a friend of yours, and we support you, and you know, I look forward to seeing what you do next. What comes in the future here.
Oh, thank
So
you.
yeah, and congratulations on getting picked up by those like the Monster Channel here recently.
Yeah. The Monster Halloween Jack's awesome.
Yeah.
And they went to their they just started streaming online with its 24-hour horror host and horror movies, and www.themonsterchannel.com.
Yeah.
And I was watching their show on my computer, and I saw a little note that said they were looking for more people, looking for talented people. And I thought, gee, I'm almost talented. Maybe they'll put me on. And I contacted him, and he was already aware of me.
Wow.
And he said he didn't feel like he could have. He didn't feel right approaching me. I get, and I was like, oh, I would love to be on your channel. And he said, well, I'm going to give you Friday at 11:40 at night. How's that sound? I have a 20-minute opening. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That's
so cool. Yeah. I've checked it out. In fact, they've been around for years, and I've even watched some full-length films on there before. You go on there, and right off the bat, there's a movie screen in front of you, and there's always something going on. So that's it. You're on at 11:45 on Friday nights.
11:40. I'm on right after Horror Hotel.
Okay.
Horror Hotel is Lamera, I believe her name is. And I'm on after her. I think it's a good spot because people will tune in for her. And if they forget to turn their computer off, or if they don't change the channel on the Roku, they get stuck watching me. But I like to say, end your Friday night with Bucky and Dr. Dread. So 11:40 Eastern Standard Time on the Monster Channel.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So that's where everybody needs to go. They need to come at 11:40 on Friday nights to specifically come see you. So I'm endorsing that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So
while we're at it, I'm also on YouTube, and every show that's on the Monster Channel ends up being on YouTube about 2 days later. And you can find that, just Google pound Dr. Dread reviews, and I'll show.
Okay, great. Well, Doc, I thank you so much for doing this interview and taking time out of your day to come talk to us and tell us a little bit about yourself, and because people only really know you from what they see in your videos when you're doing reviews. I think people would be interested to know who you are, and without the lights and the puppets
and the puppet.
Yeah. So I thank you, and I'm gonna post a link down in the comments below to your channel, and encourage people to come check you out.
Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate it, and I just find it hard to believe that anybody would watch me.
No, it's good stuff, and like I said, you provide a valuable service. It is true, like you said. I interviewed Count Gordeval, who happens to be one of the bigger names, and he's been around for over 20 something years. He started in DC, and then he's one of the big names, and he told me flat out, there's only so many public domain films,
right,
and you can only go through them so many times, and then it just becomes regurgitated. And I've done interviews with some of the other ones as well. It's the same thing. They're showing the same films. As to where you're getting into some obscure films that people just are not sure about, and you're watching them, I'm assuming, all the way through.
Yes.
Even as painful as they may be, and you're letting us know.
They're fun. Even some of the bad ones are fun. I think the worst thing a film can do is be boring.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather watch a really bad film that's just nutty crazy. That doesn't make dense, but there's stuff going on, as opposed to two people sitting in a room talking to each other. Just it's
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the benchmark is right behind you on the wall there. Ed Wood's Plan 9 from Outer Space. So that's like probably one of the most painful film, but a beloved film because it's painful. So
I love that movie. I
mm,
really did. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and that's to say, there's something. Some films are just meant to be enjoyed and not taken seriously because the hokiness, or like in Ed Wood's case, there's some scenes that are light, some scenes are dark, and it's jumping around and continuities all over the place. But it's great. It's fun. And that's a public domain film, but that's still a film that is dear to many cult. It's got a big cult following, including myself. I love that film as well. I mean, Tor Johnson, and one of Bela Lugosi's one of his last roles, uh, and then Vampira, and just it's got all the little elements there that it's fun. It's a fun film. So, Doc, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And is there anything you'd like to add, or?
Just tune in, watch the Weird Kids Show because you're awesome.
Ah, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Doc. It's been an honor, sir.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Hey, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that interview. Like I said, I really enjoyed talking to John. After we got done with the recording, we talked for probably another 20 minutes, and almost till his battery died. Really, really nice guy. And he really is providing a service, because I go to the dollar store and I see all these DVDs and the spin on these. They do Photoshop, make a fantastic cover, tell you an amazing synopsis on the film, and then you buy it and bring it home and put it in, and you're like, oh, this is horrible. Well, he will literally sit there and watch that whole film and then break it down for you and even tell you if it's worth buying or not. So he is really providing a service. I like this guy, and I please encourage you, go pinned down at the top of the comments is a link to his YouTube channel. Please go over there and show some love and subscribe to him, and get notifications when he uploads. He uploads once a week, and he's mentioned being on a couple of these channels, one being the Monster Channel, so you can watch him on Friday nights at 11:40. He has this slot there. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you so much, and until next time, you take care.